Alright, so as many of you no doubt know, I was not really, anticipating Outriders with, bated breath, and I wasn't really incredibly impressed by the demo. There was just a couple issues there. The gameplay was kind of basic. It didn't really, I guess, show off a lot of the, better mechanics of the game. It didn't show off, what the game could be. It just kind of showed a very simple side of it, and that wasn't exactly exciting. But as I've been playing this game since the morning, basically, since as soon as it finished downloading and updating this morning, after switching my console to New Zealand time, I basically just have a few things that I want to talk about related to, my likes and dislikes for the game. Now, relatively similar to the demo, even after playing through 4 characters to level 7 in the demo, the aiming mechanics, they still feel funky to me. There's something with just the aiming, with the camera movement, that even with the motion blur removed, even with the, camera shake reduced, I'm still just not feeling the aim very well. It just doesn't feel natural. I can't exactly put my finger on it, but it's still incredibly difficult to actually, consistently get headshots with any sort of automatic weapon. I mean, it's just more or less spray or pray unless you're within like 5 feet of an enemy. And that's kind of annoying. I mean, I don't expect that, weapons should have like no recoil or, they should just be laser beams exactly, pinpointing an enemy. But the fact that I just can't keep on target when pretty much every other game, it's not really that big of an issue. I mean, even in Division 1, which had horrendously unstable weapons, which was good for, the game, obviously. I kind of liked that feature where the weapons just weren't laser beams. I could still aim at the head consistently. In this, it feels so funny to try to actually just aim at a body part. You can't consistently do it. I mean, maybe if you're mouse and keyboard, it might be a little bit easier for you. But yeah, on console, it just doesn't feel good. And of course, the biggest issue that I have, that really didn't bother me that much in the demo, but, going into the live game, it really feels disruptive. And that's just the sheer amount of loading screens and these, little cinematic cutscenes that basically are just hiding loading screens. It's getting aggravating. I mean, it's really hard to immerse yourself in a game when basically every 4 or 5 minutes the game is telling you, we're loading. It goes back to like, PlayStation 1. I mean, it really feels awkward at times where it's just you're jumping over a crevasse and it's loading. You're shimming through a wall, loading. It just does this all the time. For like every little side mission, you have to go through one of these loading screens. Every time you switch to an area, loading screen. I mean, I don't really like open world games, but at the same time, I really wish this style of game would have been in an open world. So it doesn't necessarily have to be this big giant, explorable expanse of everything. And it could have just been a carved path through the world that you could explore, but loading the, majority of assets as you go rather than constantly interrupting the play, constantly just interrupting the flow of movement. It's gotten aggravating. And I hope that they can fix it. And I honestly hope that if they do decide to make a sequel to this game, that they completely scrap this. They, go back to the drawing board, get rid of this, style of gameplay, because it really feels disjointed. Now for the things that I like. And I don't want to give too much away regarding, stuff that you might be looking forward to, stuff that you want to kind of explore on your own. So I'm basically just going to input this boss fight from Anthem over a similar boss fight in Outriders. So one of the mechanics that I was kind of unimpressed with in the demo was just the fact that, they showed you that there was, like circular patterns or, area of effects that the enemy were using. But at the same time, there wasn't ever a real sense of avoiding things. You didn't really need to, besides the occasional grenade or, one of those fire grenades that the enemies dropped when they died. Most of it was just kind of very basic shooter mechanics. And that kind of, disappointed me because, I mean, again, this is kind of like a very basic looter, a very basic shooter, a very basic adventure game. In the live game, it really feels like they're actually expanding on the mechanics as you go in. And this is great because I kind of get the feeling of a Diablo-style looter, except, a shooter version of it, which is really good because I like that. I kind of want to play a Diablo shooter game. And I was hoping that's what The Division would be, and it kind of is, but this feels even more similar to a Diablo. And that's in large part because of the area of effect attacks that are being spread around, the kind of patterns that the enemies can make with different abilities and stuff like that, and avoiding them. It feels good, especially when it's in combination with being rushed by minions and stuff like that. So combining a lot of different attacks and a lot of different patterns and stuff like that, it makes it feel interesting. It makes it feel classic at the same time, and it kind of harkens back to stuff like like the World of Warcraft raids, or again Diablo 1, 2, and 3, where you're just trying to gather up all the little minions so you can turn around real quick and do a big AoE blast, and something like that. It kind of reminds me of that, and that's good. That I like that, and that's what I was hoping for, that I didn't really get to see in the demo. So that is one of the things that I really enjoy. Now, the other thing I was kind of worried about, from playing the demo, was just the gear. Now, from the demo, we didn't really get to see very much. We got the basic gear, we got some greens, we got some blues, and if you were very lucky, you happened to get, the legendary pieces. But for the most part, we didn't get a full spectrum of what was going to be on tap. Now, once I started actually, leveling up and seeing how the different items progressed, I was actually rather impressed, because a green item doesn't stay the same basic green item throughout the entire game. When you first start out, obviously your green item has one stat, but once you start getting higher in level, it gets additional stuff. Of course, when you get blue items, they get additional stuff as you get higher and higher. So a level 2 blue is a lot different than like a level 20 blue. And this kind of creates a little bit, more interest, a little bit more depth as you go. So you can create a strong build early on, but you can also keep creating even stronger builds as you go. And this just kind of dives a lot more into the customization aspect, which is really good, because I was afraid that there would be a very basic system. You'd have one build, maybe two, and that would be it. But what I'm finding is that not only are you having multiple builds just for fun, you're having multiple builds to accomplish different purposes. For example, there's certain builds that are better dealing with, rushing enemies. There's better builds for dealing with, long distance sniper type enemies. There's better builds for dealing with minions. There's better builds for dealing with bosses. There's better builds for dealing with, some of the heavier enemies like the captains or the elites. I'm not even sure what exactly they're called, but the tankier enemies, right? The ones that just kind of comes in like 2s and 3s, those guys. So there's a lot of different ways to actually make your build that didn't really come across in the demo. So this is a pleasant surprise for me. So not only combining these different builds and all these different stats and how they complement your skills extremely well, what you can also get into is crafting and upgrading, and basically just changing out different pieces on your gear, which it does appear that it is quite heavy on the resource requirements, but at the same time you do get plenty of gear, and it's up to you how you decide that you want to use it. If you want to just deconstruct it all, if you want to sell it all and buy stuff from the vendor, you have plenty of options with that. But it does just go into the fact that you don't need to focus on all of a sudden finding the right piece at the right level. If you find a right piece at any level, you have the potential to just keep carrying it forward. So that's nice. And of course, being expensive means that you're probably not going to just do it for every piece of gear all the time and just have an invincible, armory of everything. It's going to take a good grind to actually get all that stuff. So it feels like it fits in very well. So honestly, overall, I am enjoying my time playing it. I'm a lot more impressed than I thought I would be. I can't say that everything's just perfect yet. I'm still hoping that it, obviously develops more and more as I go. But, as of now, I can say that I'm not as negative on the game as I thought I was going to be. I'm still uncertain as to how long the life of this game will be, because, I don't know what the replayability factor will be. Whether friends will just drop off real quick and ignore the game or what. That's, to be seen in the next, couple weeks here. But as of right now, I am enjoying the game. If you are on Game Pass, again, I highly recommend you at least try it out, just because it is free for Xbox users on Game Pass. So there's no real reason not to try it. If you are on PlayStation or if you are on PC, then maybe you do want to wait, a little bit to see some of the reviews come in, or at least see more gameplay footage just to, judge it for yourself. Maybe you just want to wait for a discount. I'm not going to, fault you for any of that. I mean, that's all on you. But what I can say is it has changed my mind towards the more positive, and if I could say, or at least do anything about the game personally, it would definitely be to cut out those stupid loading screens, to just make it smoother. That would probably be the biggest, benefit to the game. But thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.